All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great and very informative episode of Speak to the Mic, the unapologetic, uncensored, unfiltered show for us in the Black community. I am your host, Marlon Joseph, here with me today to discuss the importance of voting, particularly in the Black community, as we are 10 days away from the election 2020 between former Vice President Joe Biden and current president, or whatever the hell you want to call him, Trump. My panel guests today consist of a writer and an advocate, a huge advocate for the Black community as far as voting goes, and an activist in the Black community. She's also a descendant and a great-great-granddaughter of the late Ida B. Wells, Ms. Tiana Farrell. Glad to have you on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak to me about these issues that we're dealing with as we, get underway with this election come November 4th.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to, grant us with your knowledge and wisdom as it pertains to what this vote and what this election in particular actually means as we get underway with it, especially in the Black community. So I just want to, dive right into it. So let's get to it. So my first question to you is, I'm sorry, I had a few questions in mind, and I know I can go on and on about the questions I have because there's so many of them that, I don't know, it just makes your head spin sometimes when you think about so many questions and not enough answers, right? So
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So my first question is to you, how important is it for people in the Black community to vote based on their interests versus basing it on an actual individual?
That's a very, very good question because both of them are important. But I guess we have to sometimes think about what is of greater importance. For instance, we definitely want to think about our individual needs. I'll say, like, for me, taxes is a big thing. Of course, nobody wants to pay more taxes. However, I know there are people, especially in our community, people who look like us, who aren't as fortunate as we have been able to be. Marlon, we are college educated. We're working individuals, and everybody in our community isn't like that. So if my taxes have to raise a little bit to help people who look like me to get assistance so that we can level the playing field, then I need to vote in the best interest of my community versus myself as an individual. That's the way that I look at that. So I just think that it's something that we have to just weigh, the scale and kind of see how is it going to benefit all of us in the long run, because if only one of us is winning, then none of us are. So we have to kind of look at the greater good of our community.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that too, because when I think about interest versus individualism, and more times than not, you think about the actual individual that you're voting for versus the interest that that particular person may indeed be holding for you. So in this particular case, we can talk about, for days, just how different both candidates are with Biden and Trump and their administration and things of that nature, and what has taken place just alone throughout this entire year. Not even, we're going to exclude the other 3 years, right, or the other 2.5 years that he's been in office, and nothing has really transpired in terms of the advancement of us as colored people and Black people in the community. But with Biden and Kamala Harris, we obviously have some trepidations about them and their administration and what their tactics are as it pertains to, being able to implement some kind of a plan that's going to include us too, because for far too long, we can obviously delve into the gist of it in terms of Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter what party it's been. Black people, for the most part, have been shortchanged throughout politics, throughout the history of this country. And we can definitely agree on that. So for me, and for a lot of other Black people in the community that I've talked with, in regards to the issues that we have been dealing with for far too long, it's been the same old damn song. It's like, okay, why are we not getting the same equal opportunities in health, with healthcare, in business, in finance, and just home ownership association and things of that nature. So a lot of different things come to mind when we think about the different things that we are basically we're disenfranchised and we're oppressed and we're tired of it. And so I definitely want to delve into some of that as we continue on with this episode because yeah, we're at a very frustrating time when it comes to all right, enough is enough. Now we've been yelling, we've been screaming, we've been hollering and crying about the same damn issues that's been going on for entirely too long. Who's going to step up and actually do something that's going to put us in the forefront and say, hey, this community matters just as much as any other community does. We're not asking for more, we're asking for the same. And we've been getting bare minimum. And it's been like little nitbits here and there that's been given to us only to have us happy and say, okay, well, we'll keep you at bay. If we keep giving you little change here and there, you won't ask for the big dollars, and so to
Right.
speak. But
And see, with that, I think, Marlon, was another step past voting. That once we vote, we kind of get tired. We don't demand
yeah,
our representatives to hold their promises that they were campaigning with. We don't demand any of that. And if they fail us from the campaign trail, we need to vote them out, or we need to support one another to get people who look like us in there. I spent my morning campaigning for a wonderful Black woman running for Senate in the state of Georgia. I mean, you want change, we got to be the change that we want, right? So,
absolutely.
if we have a candidate who is failing us, they make these promises and then they get in office and they do not uphold their bargain, it's time to get somebody else, And again, if you don't see anybody on the campaign trail that you actually like, go find one of your friends. Let's support them. Let's donate. You can get anybody on that ticket.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? Before I go any further, too, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention this too. So every episode of my podcast, I'm always highlighting and promoting Black businesses that I obviously have done business with. Right. So deference.com is a Black-owned business that actually sells a lot of different Greek paraphernalia, all Black Greek letter organizations. I actually purchased this shirt, which is exercising my right to vote, and it just expressing how important it is to vote. So everyone, obviously, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, so I don't have to even go off into it being the greatest fraternity known to man. This I already understood. But just pushing the whole idea and the premise behind voting and how important it is for us to use our vote as our voice.
Yes,
And I'm a huge advocate in telling people this, and I'm being very blunt about it. If you're not going to vote, shut the hell up. I want to hear a damn thing you have to say because what you're saying is on deaf ears. You're just talking just for the sake of hearing yourself talk. You don't have any alternatives. And we have far too many people in not just our community, but other communities too, who are saying that, you know what, they just complain about so many different things, but you're not providing any alternatives. And that's exactly what
absolutely.
the hell we've been getting from this Trump administration too. It's just, oh, Obamacare is bad, bad, bad. Then what the hell is good then? What are you giving us to tell us, okay, since this is so bad, to your point, what are we going to get in return of this? Like, what is going to be the alternative to this bad healthcare that just so happens to show that America is 40 years behind with even providing healthcare to all of its citizens? All the other countries have been doing this for years, and it took a Black president just to say, you know what? I think this is a good idea. I think it's a great idea to make sure all of our citizens who are tax-paying, law-abiding citizens at that receive health care. And so, no, and I'm not sitting here telling you that the healthcare plan is crisp, clean, and 100%, ham solid. But I am saying that with a plan in place, this leaves room for anyone coming behind him to say, okay, let's take this plan and let's make it better. Let's add more to it, or take some
Right.
things that may not have worked versus what could work. But don't
Right. At
just
least there
start
was a plan
hollering.
in place.
Yeah, but don't start crying wolf about, oh, this is a terrible plan, and it's the worst. Let him tell it. It's the worst damn plan ever known to man. And but you've been saying for the last 3.5 years, we're gonna get a plan. It's gonna be tremendous. It's gonna be beautiful. It's a wonderful plan. Everyone loves it. Really? But where the hell has the plan been? Oh, listen, listen. My Trump impression is like,
That was
I think
uncanny.
it's
That
top
was
notch.
great.
Hey, it's top notch. Listen, it's gonna work. Listen, it's going to be wonderful. Everyone says it's a great job. The Obama plan, listen, Obamacare is the worst thing to happen to American citizens all over the country. Everyone says it. I'm not the only one that says this. I'm like, really? So that's all the hell you have. You've been saying for the last 3.5 damn years how bad this plan is, but hadn't provided any fucking ounce of alternative to it. So that's what pisses me off, along with other people too, because what's at stake here is not only this Supreme Court judge that's being, I think, is going to be appointed probably come Monday or a week after, Amy Coney Barrett. I think that's the woman's name. She is going to be appointed into the seat where former and the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has served in. And so the premise behind her being pushed in and voted in is to basically do away with not only Roe versus Wade, but also do away with the Affordable Health Care Act, which is going to take over 40 million people's health care away, and possibly more than that if you think about it. So these are the type of issues that we have to be very cognizant of when it comes to what our interests consist of. As Black people, we oftentimes don't live past 60 because of our health issues, because of our preconditioned issues. So this healthcare was in place that really benefited Black people the most. If people ever do that research and really think about exactly what this healthcare means, Barack Obama was trying to do what he could do. But I'm not going to put the fate of the world, the fate of the Black community on one man's shoulders and say, oh, he failed us, he didn't do this. Now, he has some blame to take upon some of the things that he could have done, but to say one man can just completely undo every damn thing that's been detrimental to us in the Black community is unfair, and it's very stupid to think that.
Absolutely. And so he also had a Republican Congress, so.
That too, because Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, the Matt Gaetzes of the world, these jackasses sat up here and deliberately made it hard for him to pass anything over. And they have laughed about this and been on record saying they purposely did that. Yes. So those are some things that we have to take into account. A president can only be as strong as his administration and the Congress and Senate that allows him to do so. And if Congress and the Senate doesn't allow him to pass any bills or basically pass off things that could be effective for the Black community, then how the hell else is he going to be able to pass anything? Like, it doesn't work there. He can't just do it himself without getting the approvals and the sign-offs from Congress and the House and the Senate. So people have to understand exactly how these things work. It's a domino effect.
And I think that's the thing, Marlon. A lot of us don't understand that. I sometimes take for granted the education that I have had. Yeah. And I was in honors government and in high school, and so we went over things like that. I don't know, how often that is taught and how deep they go into it nowadays, and where kids, they may not know the legislative branches of government and how they work. So when you have a candidate saying, just giving you lip service and say that this president wasn't good and I'm undoing what he did, they kind of just believe him because they don't understand the checks and balances and know that by themselves that this one position has limited power. Yep. You have to have your Congress, assist you. And so I think that's where a lot of the problems lie, where our current administration just gets away with a lot because people do not understand the way that our judicial system works.
Yeah. And we all know that it's out of spite what Trump has been doing, trying to undermine and just completely undo every single thing that was even related or associated with Obama by saying, we know what, his administration, we did a terrible job with this country, but yet you provided no alternatives to any of the different things that you're saying that he was terrible at. But then you're always bringing up what happened in the past. Now, mind you, as a Black man, we all know the past has been in the present, and unfortunately, some of it's going to be in the future too, when it comes to the detrimental effects that we have, the things that have taken toll on us as Black people in the Black community. But also, as a president, you're focused more on the past than what you are currently doing or supposed to be doing.
Right.
And it took for you to,
we're dying left and right of this virus, right? Because we're not focusing on the current.
Yeah. And it took for you to talk to different Black celebrities and say, you know what, I'm going to get some more Black celebrities to join our team and help us gain some more leverage with the Black community and Black supporters. When we're not just going to just give you our support anyway, regardless of what party you're in. And so for me, I want to just delve into this before I get to my next question. Ice Cube is someone I have tremendous respect for, and I appreciate what the premise behind his Black his black contract consists of. And I want to paraphrase exactly what the title of his contract. Well, I think it was a contract for black people or something to that effect. But he has to understand that there's no talking to Trump. There's no getting through to him. Look at the long list of black people who swore up and down they were so damn different and thought they were going to be able to just go into that White House, talk to him, and provide some alternatives to what can ultimately help the black community when it fell on deaf ears. He didn't even let you get a damn word edgewise. So it's like, why would you even go in the first place thinking you're going to talk to him when he's doing most of the talking and using you as a damn prompt, as a damn pawn, and as a photo op? And you got used. And then you looking back on it and saying, well, damn, I wish I didn't do that. Well, hell, all the signs pointed to why you shouldn't have done that in the first damn place.
Yes.
So it's like, come on now.
The many
2 is 4.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I can appreciate what he was trying to do, but
Yeah.
we're dealing with a 70-year-old racist white man.
A narcissist.
He's not going to change. Yeah,
Malignant
he's not
narcissist.
changing.
He's not going to change.
He is what he is.
And what he always been. 74-year-old senile, stuck in his ways, racist asshat who gets off of having people praise and worship and just bloviate about him. That's all the hell he wants. If you're not talking highly of him, then you're against him. And he's going to talk bad about you in his damn tweets. He's tweeting in the wee hours of the damn night when we have so many issues to tackle. He's worried about what some damn youth, or I guess Generation X, is doing on TikTok. He's used more executive orders on bullshit that actually, I'm gonna rephrase that. He has used executive orders like they were fucking drive-through food orders. Like, it's ridiculous how useless and pointless these executive orders have been since he's been in office. Nothing that's pertaining to anything that's critical to not just black people, but Americans in general. Meanwhile, we have all his supporters backing him up regardless of what he's saying, what he does, when they don't even, in fact, realize that some of these very issues are affecting them too.
Absolutely.
Some of his supporters have died. We're not going to take into account, okay, it's been 220,000 plus people died from this virus. Who's to say how many of them have been his supporters? Right. They died on his very ignorance and word, and they were willing to go to the grave for it. So you know what? To that point, as much as I value and appreciate human life, I can't give too much condolences to those people who have been foolish enough to believe the bullshit that he's been spewing. You made your choice, but we'll get into that even deeper. So my next question to you is, can you explain just how real voter suppression is, especially in the Black community?
Oh yeah. Voter suppression. This is something that's been going on since we became free, right?
Right.
So that's everything from counting jelly beans in the jar, 50, 60 years ago, to present day, long lines, poll workers who aren't trained, poorly trained poll workers.
Oh my God.
It is confusion on your polling place, not getting out your registration card. Voter suppression looks like being incarcerated, right? So, people like to say, think that voter suppression isn't real and their vote doesn't matter because of voter suppression, to let you know how important your vote is. Because if your vote wasn't important, our brothers and sisters who are in the pen right now would be able to cast your vote. You can do everything else in prison. You can get a college degree. You can pick up a trade. You can get a job. But why can't you vote? We can bring some voting machines in there. That's how precious the vote is. That's how important the vote is. They do not want us to have it. That is voter suppression at its best. Then even when our convicted brothers and sisters get out, America wants us to believe that you no longer have the right to vote. I just did a campaign with chart topping rapper Little Durk, and I joined forces with him because he was one of those who was suppressed, where he thought that he couldn't vote because he was a convicted felon, when he was a teenager. And so this year, him being 28 years old, is going to be his first time casting his vote because his team informed him that, you can register. You're no longer on probation. You can get your rights back. And so that's just something we wanted to educate our community with. It's like, you can vote, but voter suppression is so real where they will just brainwash us into thinking that we have no power, that we have no voice, that you lost this, that you can never get it back. But yeah, voter suppression, it's very, very real.
Yeah, and to that point, right? One of the biggest misnomers about Black people, and when it comes to voting, is that, oh well, yeah, my vote doesn't matter. It don't matter. I'm only one person, or I'm only one group of people. We're gonna sit this one out. It's like, no, listen. If your vote didn't count or didn't matter, they wouldn't go through extreme measures to make sure that you're silenced when it comes to your vote. They wouldn't go through all these different avenues of discounting your vote because of a misspelled middle name, or
Mhm.
a number off of your address or zip code, or just minute shit that they try to find to just completely discount and disqualify your vote, or claiming
Absolutely.
that, oh, you're voting more than once, or so your first vote is not going to count at all, your second vote's not going to count at all. And it's like they're going through so many things. And you know what? This is not a Democrat and Republican thing. This is strictly a Republican thing. We're seeing Republicans single-handedly are going through so many extreme measures to make sure, hey, I can't stop you for who you vote for, but I can stop you for voting at all. And they're
Right.
doing every damn thing they could in their power to make sure they limit the amount of people who can vote, and
Absolutely.
the amount of areas you can vote in.
That too.
And
And so I'll take that a step further, Marlon. I think that voter suppression starts at birth.
yeah,
Why is it that I get a birth certificate? I get a birth certificate. You get a social security number, right?
yep,
On your 18th birthday, you should automatically be registered to vote. You shouldn't have to go get registered to vote. That is another form of suppression because they don't want you to do it. I mean, we should all have that right. That should be something that's always in the system. You track everything else we do on our social security number.
exactly.
As soon as that
Every single
18th
damn
birthday
thing.
hit, you should already be ready to vote. I mean, but they just it's another way to just weed us out. So that suppression just starts early on, where they just do not want you to have the access.
Yep. And part of that suppression too is that, and this is a person I admire and have a great deal of respect for, Stacey Abrams, who had ran for governor of Georgia a couple years back. She actually has been a huge advocate for trying to do away with electoral college, which basically has been another way to suppress our votes, because
Yeah.
electoral colleges originally was created to basically under the premise that Black people weren't educated or competent enough to make a damn vote and determine who can be the leader of the free world. And of course, we all knew how racist and biased and bullshit that was. And so for me, I do feel like we should have been like really pushing forward with eliminating the electoral college altogether because of how useless and pointless it's been. If you win the popular vote, damn it, that's what matters. That's the whole premise behind democracy. Okay, you
Absolutely.
are in office because of the people who put you there,
Yes.
not because of your own whim, off your own premise. No, we put you there. You are in the office serving the people. That's what the whole idea of democracy is. But
Right.
democracy in this country for the last 4 damn years has been made a complete mockery of. And so it almost is non-existent if you think about it in some aspects of it. So for me, the frustration is it's not enough of us have been pushing the envelope to get rid of the electoral college. So I really appreciate Stacey Abrams for being a huge advocate in that particular realm, because that's been something that's been a huge issue for us for far too long. And in fact, Black people, we have to renew our voting rights every 40, 50 years. Really? So we have a limit
Right.
on when we get to vote. Like, all right, so next year we got to renew this, like it's a damn driver's license, or like it's a damn a voter registration card, if you will. We have to renew our ability to vote. That sickens me to know that.
Definitely does. Yeah. Another form of voter suppression is each state having different registration guidelines and
Really?
deadlines. It's just the likelihood of confusion is
Yeah.
voter suppression, because we don't know which state has this deadline, which one. Some of them don't. It's just so much confusion where people just think like, oh, well, I guess I missed it. I thought it was October 5th. And it's like, it's October 5th for Georgia, not in your state. There's just so many ways that the United States divides us, which I don't even know why we call ourselves the United States,
It's
because,
called the divided states. That's what I've been calling
absolutely,
it.
because
It's
there's just
divided states.
so much confusion and everything
Yep.
going on. But that was created to oppress, and it's just one of those
And it's funny.
things
It's
where,
funny you mentioned that too, because I'm reminded of a scene out of a movie. I don't know if you may have seen Selma, right? So,
yes,
in Selma, there was an older Black woman who was in the state of Alabama who was going to go cast her vote, right? And there was an older white lady who looked at her and told her to name all the counties in the state of Alabama in alphabetical order.
hmm
She got two wrong. They didn't even allow her to even cast her damn vote. See, this is the type of shit I'm talking about. So that
hmm
happened 50 years ago plus, right? So
yeah,
now we're finding new ways. Well, they are finding new ways. And one of my metaphors I always use is it's more ways to get into a house than the front door. These bastards are using the damn window and
yep,
or breaking the damn window to get into the back of the house, or they're using the basement window to get inside the house. They are pulling. There is no holds barred when it comes to the amount of things that they are willing to do to suppress our votes. We have to understand how important our voice is when it comes to casting that vote on that ballot. We have to understand how critical this is for us more than anybody else, because again, we've been the ones shortchanged more than anybody else in this damn country, and it's that time is up. I'm sick of having to wait, or I'm sick of having to look at a previous generation and say, well, my kids are going to be able to enjoy this. No, I want me and my kids to enjoy this moment, and knowing that I took it upon myself along with other people to make a damn difference, making sure that I cast my vote, making sure my voice is heard actively in our community, taking back our communities. Because the one thing about this is that it's going to take more than just these politicians. It's going to take us to, again, be monolithic. And I'm very, very hopeful and optimistic about the idea of being monolithic being a very obtainable goal in our community. A lot of people tell me I'm crazy to believe that, but then just call me insane then, because in my heart of hearts, I know that we can't get to a place where we are all on one accord and say, you know what, this ain't right. We collectively have a part to play in this. Let's push the envelope together. This is not about egos, it's not about titles, none of that bullshit. This is about the greater good for us to be able to reap the benefits of our hard work and fight against the system, and to provide a better life for our future kids too. We shouldn't have to wait till we're old and gray and then be still fighting these same fights. That's ridiculous. It's counterproductive when you think about it. So we each have a part to play in that. My next question to you is pretty cliches when you think about it. So, how critical is this presidential election versus the previous ones that we dealt
the previous ones. Do you mean present day or just like all of them?
with? Let's just say the last two, right?
The last
So,
two?
yeah, the ones against Obama against McCain, Obama against Mitt Romney.
Got
We
it.
can go back to
Okay.
even George Bush. We'll stop at
Okay.
Bush.
I would say against all of those, this is the most critical
Yeah,
because although I did not agree with every candidate that was elected in the past,
yeah,
I still felt safe with them. And I think that's the difference where there are just so many reasons that we should be careful with who we have in the White House right now. But one of the things that's on the top of the list for me is getting, the lives of Americans, getting this virus under control. For someone who doesn't even think that this is a real thing, um, it's scary
very,
um, because we have so many people losing their lives. I have had some loved ones fall victim to this virus. It's very personal. I think for everybody at this point, everybody knows somebody who has had it, right? And
absolutely.
somebody
Yeah,
who has not survived it.
yeah,
And so, I mean, this is something that happens about every 100 years in this country.
yeah,
However, this for it to be in 2020 with all of the technology that we have, it should have never gone this far.
yeah,
Of course, it would have been difficult for under any administration, but for an administration to not even accept that this is a real thing, it's very
yeah.
scary. It doesn't matter, what you look like, what color you vote for, what party you're with. I'm like, this is an American thing. And if you
Yep.
have somebody that you love, I don't understand how you can vote for someone who doesn't think this is a big deal.
Absolutely. This virus is very unbiased. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what your religious beliefs are. It doesn't matter what your political views are. It doesn't matter what race you are. This virus attacks the body regardless of what body it attacks. It's going to attack all bodies. And it's been doing that since March. And the fact, it's not so much about even having this pandemic even enter the US, but it's about the lack of response and responsibility that this administration has taken and the accountability they've taken, because Trump has been on record saying that he takes no accountability whatsoever with the severity of how long and how much damage this virus has done. He's been so economy. People got to get back to work, all this other bullshit.
Right.
You want people to get back to work to make you money and make your friends money. That's what the hell you want.
Right.
You don't care about bodies. You don't care about human life. You care about the idea of still making the top dollar off people's bodies, regardless of how many bodies drop. And that's been the terrible part about it, on top of the idea that he himself caught the damn virus. Now they say I'm immune. I don't even know how. I'm just feeling fantastic. They pumped your ass with a lot of damn steroids,
Right.
and he's
Yeah, you're not
74
immune.
years
You
old.
have access to the best healthcare in this country.
I'm
You're like,
still under the impression that
even, you
he
know
may
what?
have it still. I think he
I'm about
still
to say,
got
he
it.
might still have it, or maybe he didn't have it. Who knows?
Or
You can't
maybe he
believe
didn't have it. Because a part of me did think
it
he
could
had
be a
it.
PR
It's just
stunt so he can get votes, Marlon. I mean,
sympathy votes. It was like, you know what? Listen,
absolutely.
the fact that we're at a place where we can't even take our own damn president and
That's it.
commander in chief and fucking
Yes.
as serious as this
Yes.
virus is, we can't even take him for his word.
Right.
It's like, man,
Yes.
listen,
Either
let me,
sympathy
before
votes,
I even
or he
accept
wants you to
this
say, see,
information,
I told you this wasn't a big a deal. I got over it.
exactly.
And
And it's
you
like,
will
before
too.
I accept this information from him that he has it, let me go down a list of shit of reasons as to why I think he don't have it. And it's
Right.
like, damn, this is where it's come to now. We already automatically go to the worst case scenario with everything that he says and does. That speaks to the
Absolutely.
lack of decency and respect and dignity that he has for that fucking Oval Office position. That speaks to that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
That,
So
that
that and the virus and how critical the election is. And you see the race relations in this country, he just poured gasoline all over the fire that is of Black America.
I mean,
And
he
our
cremated
nation
the
has
damn
been
cremation.
unrest. Yes,
Yeah.
since he has gotten into that house.
And what makes it worse about it is the lack of ignorance that his supporters have been just pretty much living off of this entire his entire presidency, right? He holding all these damn rallies talking about, well, listen, he's not mandating people wear masks, not mandating people are socially distanced. He hasn't even gone on record to even say how important that is, but been on record saying Dr. Fauci said, well, he said not to wear a mask. Well, listen, the top expert in the who is an infectious scientist in this world, in this country, who has been working under I want to say 6 or 7 different presidents since he's been in this position. He's worked since 1984, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Fauci has been very much so aware and informative when it comes to this virus. But obviously,
Yes.
no one could ever even predict the severity of how much more this virus has egged on. So, right, in each and every person's body, it attacks differently, right? Because if you have pre-existing conditions, it's going to attack more things than one. It attacks your respiratory system. It attacks your breathing, just the way that you breathe, your bloodlines. Every single thing that it attacks, it may not attack the same exact things in someone else's body. Now, I'm not a scientist or doctor to know that, but I've had my cousin, who is a clinical nurse specialist at Emory University in Atlanta. She can speak to a lot of the different things that we had spoken about in one of my previous episodes when we were talking about the severity of this virus. We talked about Dr. Burke's takes on this, Dr. Fauci's take on this, and how their analysis has been watered down and diluted because of this damn administration and this dumbass president who's been telling people, hey, well, he said this. No, we just heard what the hell he said. You don't get to translate what the hell he said for him. You're not smart. We're not going to listen to you. You have politicized this damn pandemic and it made it worse. So it's not about the actual virus itself. It's about how much worse the shit has gotten since he has not taken into account how serious this virus is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my next question though is, what do you say to people who are either indecisive about who they're voting for, or who are saying they're not going to vote at all? This is one of the most aggravating questions for me. I just need to know what your take is on it.
Me too, Marlon. If you're indecisive at this point, I don't even know what else to tell you. Run the tapes back, maybe. Go listen to a debate again.
Oh
Just
my God.
just go look, do some more homework. Because
The debate really
here's
didn't
the
help
thing,
much.
the
I'm gonna
candidate,
be real.
the guys in the White House he's been himself the entire time. So we know what we're dealing with. And Joe Biden isn't a new candidate. We've been dealing with Joe for a long time. He's been representing the United States for a long time.
Yep.
So again, I don't understand if you're indecisive at this point. Maybe you need to pray. I don't know. But those who
Prayer
say
without
that
works
they're
is
not,
dead, though. Prayer without works is dead.
I
You have to
agree.
do
They,
some
they
work,
need they
though.
need to go read again. But indecisive at this point, I just don't understand, because I mean, this is so late in the game. Like, if most of us have already voted, if we haven't voted now, I don't know what else to say about that, Marlon. But if those who aren't going to vote,
You don't have a
I
dog in
would
it,
say, if you say
personally.
you're not going to vote at all, why do you live in this country? Because every elected official in this country, whether local, state, or federal, affects everything that we do.
It does.
Everything.
Yep.
That
Whether on a
intersection,
micro scale or on a macro scale, however way
absolutely.
you
The
want to look at it.
intersection that a little kid got killed at, your elected officials decide what intersection is going to get a stop sign and what intersection is going to get a street light. I mean, everything that we do on a day-to-day basis is direct reflects the decisions of an elected official. So I just do not understand how people say they're not going to vote, or what really burns me up when people say, "Oh, I don't get into politics." What do you mean you don't get into it? We live in politics. Everything is political.
Everything is
Everything
political.
is political. When you go to the grocery store, the taxes that we're paying on everything is political.
Yep.
So how you don't get into politics and you just say that you don't vote. You're not going to vote. It drives me up the wall, and I'll take it a little bit further. People, Black people,
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yep.
You say you're not going to vote? My family, your family, our family died so we can vote.
Absolutely.
My great grandmother, Ida B. Wells, was instrumental in the women's suffrage movement, helping white women get
Yep.
the right to vote, even though Black men didn't.
Absolutely.
She was out there doing what she had to do so that you and I could vote one day, Marla, even though she knew that she didn't get that right. But she was like, if I can help the white women, then I know that one day my girls will be able to vote. It's like you can't forget the sacrifices that our ancestors have made. So,
Absolutely.
I vote for myself. When you vote, it is a thank you card to our ancestors who lost their lives, who lost respect, who lost everything
Yep.
in order for you and I to be as free as we are today. And we still have a long way to go.
We absolutely do.
But you need to drop that thank you card and that ballot to our ancestors.
Yep. That's one of many thank yous that you owe them, right? So
Absolutely.
we're on the backs,
Absolutely.
bloods, and bodies of our ancestors, and they deserve the best of us from
Yes.
them. We deserve, well, I'm sorry, they deserve the best from us, because they have put us in this position to be the best that we can be, and for us to be
Absolutely.
complacent and content with where we are, thinking that we've already
Right.
made it.
Think
That's the
that we
bullshit.
arrived.
Yeah, we haven't arrived any damn well. We've been on a treadmill running, but ain't got no damn where, really, if you think
Thank
about
you.
it in the grand scheme of things. But it just speaks to how tremendous and phenomenal of a woman Ida B. Wells, among other women who are back there fighting those same fights, right? So Black women have been the most unprotected and unrespected or disrespected
Yes.
gender of women throughout our entire lifetime. And then the fact that she spoke about that, she spoke up against those particular issues during that time. You want to talk about how patriotic it is to be a Black person, whether you're in the military or even in Ida B. Wells' situation. The fact that you would fight for rights for other people other than yourself, knowing that this country indeed doesn't even respect or even value you. That's patriotic. That's what patriotism is. To honor and respect the country that don't even honor and respect you, there's nothing more patriotic than that. And so for me, even with the whole situation with Joe Biden, right? So my issues with Black people, especially today, It's all this riffraff and shit about Joe Biden and what he hasn't done and what he did do. I didn't hear none of this shit when he was Obama's elected vice president, though. I didn't hear
Yes.
anybody bring any of this shit up then, but you want to
Mhm.
bring it up now that he's running for president when and I commend Joe for saying this, that he admitted how wrong he was for signing that crime bill back in '94 during this
Mhm.
presidential debate Thursday. And he talked about how he was wrong for thinking that was the right thing to do. And he's been trying to make his wrong a right ever since then, doing what he can in the positions that he's been holding as a senator, as a vice president, because most of the things that he and Obama have done, again, Black people benefited the most from. The
Mhm.
7+ million jobs that were created, we benefited the most from that. Imagine how much more could have been done had we had the House or the Senate in our favor as well. But
Right.
that's neither here nor there. The point is, with Joe and Kamala Harris now, Kamala Harris being a strong, very articulate and informative Black woman who has a stern and very firm belief in what can actually be the possibility for us as Black people. I'm going to put it on her as well, which she has an obligation in this too, because you don't just get our vote and then we don't ask for anything. You once we get them in office, if and when that happens, then we can be able to come to the table and talk to them about the very issues that's been plaguing our communities for far too long, and see what compromisable things we can actually come to a table and to a head for, and really get some things moving. But we also know, talking to this Trump administration, who is filled with nothing but white people, with maybe a pinch of Black, who
Mhm.
basically would just sell us out for the smallest ounce of damn acceptance to that white community. No, we don't need you talking for us. And so for me, I do feel like people who are saying you're not going to vote at all, or if you're indecisive, you've been living under a damn rock, and you really clearly haven't been reading or
Right.
just
Not listening.
not enlightening yourself or educating yourself on what is this very situation that we're in right now and what affects you. And to that other point that you made too, I think it's very imperative that we understand or even speak to how important it is to vote locally, more so than on the national level, right? So our local mayors, governors, the aldermen, the school
District
council,
attorneys.
district attorneys, circuit court judges, court appeal judges, all these different things that's affecting our local cities and states. Those things come up way often than this presidential election. So we
Right.
need to also be very vigilant and very consistent with voting in those realms too, because those are the immediate things that are impacting us like right then and there in real time, versus on a national level, those things are affecting us long term, right?
Mhm.
So we have to understand the difference between the two and be able to get ourselves well educated enough, because one thing that I've learned in the past couple of years is that whenever you're voting in a presidential election, there are other candidates that you have to read and know about to know who to vote for. It's like, oh yeah, I'm voting for this president, this president. Okay, that's good. But there are other things and people that you have to read and understand and be very educated and well aware of before you cast that vote, because now you're in a position, now you don't know what you're voting for or who you're
Absolutely,
voting
which is
for.
it's very important. I'm glad you brought that up for people to get a sample ballot so that you
Yeah,
can do the research, know what's on the ballot, because there may be a few people that surprise you because they didn't have the budget to put out campaign signs. So
absolutely.
it's definitely important to get a sample ballot so you can do your research and make a sound decision before you get into the polls. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's occurred to me too that Georgia is on the brink of becoming a possibly a swing state when it comes to which way that the waves the tides may wave, right? So maybe Biden is gaining some leverage. I don't really take a lot of stock or put a lot of stock into the point system where he is right now, because we saw that already with Hillary. She
Oh
was
yeah,
up
she was
by,
always leading, right?
yeah. So it's like
Mhm.
that doesn't matter. The fourth quarter, right? The last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, from a sports analogy perspective, that's what really shows you exactly where we are or where we're going to be the next 2 minutes. After these 2 minutes is up and that clock hits zero, then that's when we need to be really click all cylinders and working to resolve whatever issues we can once that particular person is in position in office. But with Trump,
Absolutely.
listen, he has appointed 198 judges in the last in 3.5 years. None
Hmm.
of them have been Black.
Mhm.
None of them. What does that tell you about the exclusion of his administration, the exclusion of his party? See, the whole idea behind being conservative is to basically conserve. It's basically to keep things the way it's always been because it's working for that particular group of people. Versus progressing, you want things to get better as time goes on.
Mhm.
That's the way it's supposed to go. But when you have people who feel like, well, listen, I'm benefiting from this, and all I care about is me and us. I don't care about who else is not benefiting from this. So I want to keep this the way it's been. They want the good old days. The whole GOP is good old party or
Oh yeah.
grand old party, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. But it just speaks to how just how racist. Listen, there are racist people on both Democratic and Republican Party. I'm not conditioning this to just one party because we've seen far too many times where, oh, you may be for black people until it actually gets down to the wire of saying, okay, well, if this is going to affect my white privilege and place in society, then no, I'm not really for that. But I am for compromise. See, it just speaks to that. So I don't call every white person racist, but if you're benefiting from the racist rhetoric and the privilege that you're in, then by default you are.
That's it. Come on. Yes.
So you can look at it and shape it however way you want, but when you're benefiting from the very institutional and systemic racism that exists that you don't want to acknowledge because acknowledging it means you haven't done anything about it, that shows you just how racist this country and this world has been. Because racism is not just conditioned to the US.
Right.
Black people have been disrespected every damn where. We've seen this. We are seeing this now. So for us, again, the whole premise behind being monolithic, being on one accord, being one sound mind. I get we're gonna have some disagreements here and there, but the whole foundational purpose is for us to come together and say, listen, we can commonly say these things affect us, all of us, no matter what status you have, no matter how much money you make, no matter what your political or religious views are. If you're black, what can happen to you can happen to me, regardless of whether you think you're doing enough to appease your white counterparts. That doesn't matter because the very second you say or do something they don't like, guess what? They cast you out. And now you're not going to be accepted by us either. Hence, I don't know, Daniel Cameron, Vernon Jones, Darnell Scott. These are
Omarosa.
several people, okay, that have been out, been cast out of our black community to
Mm-hmm.
never return. The Kanye Wests,
Mm-hmm.
the Jim Browns, the now Herschel Walkers. I mean, we having so many just black pawns being used. And what kills me about these dumb bastards is that they call themselves free thinkers, right? The Candace Owens people of the world. We're free thinkers because we're conservative. I have yet to find one black Republican to even give me a legitimate reason why you're a Republican, why you're a black conservative. Free thinking? You think somebody control how I thinks? Really?
Exactly.
Please explain that to me. Like that kills me, right? Everybody, oh, the Democrats are racist and they do this, do that. Really? So you think Republicans are racist? Really? That is baffling to me to think that this is one-sided, right?
Right.
Again, to Ice Cube's point, both parties have been selling us short. So now we're done asking. We're
Oh yeah.
telling you what the hell you're going to do. You don't have a
Absolutely.
choice now.
So we taking a vote.
Yep. So my next question though is going to consist of this. Okay, so do you think these long lines at the polls are a way to discourage people from voting? And this is also again speaking to that voter suppression because we've seen in Georgia it's 6 hour long lines, right? So people waiting that long. Some people will get discouraged. Say, you know what? I've been waiting too damn long for to go home. I'll do it another day or don't do it at all. And that, of course, is a way to discourage people from voting. But I just want to know from you, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely something to discourage you from voting. So, of course, if the lines are long, you're standing there longer than you think you need to be, right? And let's just say you may not even have to go back to work because a lot of us have jobs and
Absolutely.
you can't take off the entire day, shift to vote. So it's like, okay, let me go back to work. Or you may even have to use the bathroom, you know, eat, get something to drink. So there's so many reasons that you have to get out of line.
Yep.
And that's what they want you to do. And with Atlanta traffic, they're like, well, you're not going to make it back the next day either. And then guess what? With the confusion, I would say in certain counties, the hours for early voting, they're different days. So you come back the next day and say, oh, I thought you were opening at 8. No, we'd open at 9. So it's like, well, I've tried twice, right? So now we're going to give up. Or, what they want you to do? They want you to try to vote by mail. And we know that that's not going to work. Those ballots are going to get lost. There's just so many different ways, different tricks that they're trying to do just to get you out of that line, because they think once they get you out of that line, that they're just not going to get your vote. And that's just something important to remember. It was very encouraging today as I was campaigning with one of my sister friends. I saw some young Black men out on the corner holding up signs saying, vote, please vote early, and giving out pizza and water to one of the precincts people in line. So it's like, yeah, let's band together. If you've already voted, take a day to go encourage people to stay in line. Bring a couple chairs, so have our elderly or those people who are, who can't stand long to have a seat. So bring them water. We got to do everything in our power to keep folks in line.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, figuratively and literally keep them in line, right?
Yes.
So, and even to that point, I've been seeing this, and it's been very encouraging to see this throughout different polling sites and locations where, community leaders or community activists are around passing out waters, passing out fans to people if they're in like cities that are, still dealing with like hot weather for the most part. If they've been in line for a long time, passing out snacks to people. These type of things really do keep you of the mind. It keeps you in mind that how important this vote is, how important your vote is. And you know what? You can't let something very minute like waiting in a long line discourage you. And to your point, yeah, some of us, a lot of us do still have jobs, even in the midst of the 10 million plus people who have lost their jobs during this pandemic. People are still taking the time to say, you know what? I'm hopeful and optimistic that my vote is going to count. And this particular show in particular is not about swaying your vote left or right. I'm just telling you the importance of voting, voting, period. It's not just about this election. This is about every particular election, local and national. The importance of voting, especially in the Black community, because voting matters, okay? Our voice, our vote counts. And if we want to ever get anything done and change for the better for us, then we have to use our platforms to do so. No matter how grand or small our platforms are, it's still our platform. Each and every one of us have a part to play in it. So to see people in the communities doing the simple things like that, making sure that everyone's okay and accommodated for the most part until they get their place in line to cast that vote, that's very essential and very important to me. And it speaks to the humanity when it comes to that, right? So human beings still have, there is human beings out here who still have that human instinct to care about one another, to almost to a point where they would even take a couple of hours out of their own day voluntarily doing it, not getting paid for it or anything like that, but just showing just how much of a human being they can possibly be in a situation like this.
Yeah.
So, that speaks to the importance of how critical this vote in this election is. Now, one of my other things that I want to bring to your attention is that between January and late 2017 of July, Twitter identified shut down over 7,000 phony accounts created by Iranian influencers operations, according to Christopher Way, of the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Russia is attempting to interfere in the 2020 US elections. What should we tell Black people to reassure them that their vote does indeed count and matter in this election?
I would tell them just what we've been talking about previously, Marlon, that if our vote didn't matter, again, this is another trick that they're pulling out, just that they're hijacking, polling places and votes and accounts and everything else. It's just a scare tactic, just to weed out the weak. That's all it is.
It's fear mongering. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's fear mongering, and the fact that some of us, are falling victim to it, to a point where it is discouraging us from voting altogether. But even with knowing that Russia is planning to interfere in this election, or already is in the midst of figuring out ways to interfere in it, this requires more bandwidth when it comes to the FBI. We need more FBI agents out there investigating this, making sure that they don't tamper with this country's election. We should not have any foreign entities interfering or intervening in our election, period, to sway it one way or the other. It needs to be only driven by the people who are citizens of this country. That's what the democracy is. That's what democracy is in general. It's for the people and by the people. That's exactly what that's all it should be about. So yeah, my next question though is, in the interest of Black people in the Black community, it has been expressed in few ways from several people. What should be our main 5 focuses, both long-term and short-term, when it comes to what we demand in exchange for our vote? 5 things, 5 top things. To your knowledge, what do you think we should be demanding in exchange for our vote?
I think that my top thing would be health.
Yep.
Our wealth, our money, wealth. Number 2, number 3 would be our freedom. You know, how it affects our day-to-day lives. You know, are we getting the stop and frisk? You know, just our freedom as Black Americans. Number 4 would be the future. What does the future look like for us and our children? And number 5 would be visibility. And, you know, like, are we getting a seat at the table? You know, are we involved in the lawmaking process, things of that nature? So just to recap, I'll say health, wealth, freedom, our future, and visibility /
Absolutely.
power. So,
and even to break that down in essence, right? So obviously health with us, again, we're dying at a very disproportionate rate when it comes to this virus, particularly, but
right.
also other different ailments that have been plaguing our community as well. You know, with breast cancer, colon cancer, high blood pressure, heart attack, heart disease, all these different things that have been plaguing our communities for far too long. I can truly say personally that I've lost a lot of family members who didn't even make it to 61 to these different ailments that obviously were, you know, that basically took their toll on their body. So for me, yeah, health is a huge primary issue that we have to attack, and have to make sure that our people in our community have adequate and accurate health care to provide to them, regardless of their pre-existing conditions. But making these companies be held accountable for providing health care to each and every one of us, right? So with wealth, wealth can be explained in a number of ways, right? So some people feel like we should be given a reparations check. You know, for one person, I think Rob Johnson, who was the CEO of BET formerly, he mentioned something about $365,000 per African American homeowner or a householder or whoever the person is in charge of the house, right? So for me, I do feel like a check is a one-off. I'm not really for having a check. Give me access to the very wealth that you have access to.
Yeah, that's
for
what
me
I
to
mean
make
by
my own damn money.
Right.
I don't need you to
your
give me
counterpart is
anything.
making $100,000 a year. You shouldn't be making 75,000 doing the same job as the white guy.
Exactly.
Right.
So don't give me no check, because see, if we condition this to a check, then they can always negotiate. Oh, well, listen, well, we're gonna give you less than that, and after we give you this, you can't ask nothing else. Or be like, well, we gave y'all this. No. That big ass house you got, I want a big ass house right next to you.
Right. I want to be able to qualify for a loan to secure a house, right? We just want access to wealth.
Economic empowerment is something that we are all striving for. And economic equality, more importantly, is something that we should all be given. And that's what we're demanding. I don't want no one-off, because you've been doing this shit to us for 400 years. Oh no, you're going to pay us back for all 400 of them.
Right.
Every day of every year moving forward. There's not going to be no putting a Band-Aid on the damn gunshot wound and still watching all of this blood gush out. No, that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for any of us, for that matter. Because, and I felt like if you give Black people a check, they're gonna do black people shit with it. Let's be real about this. We don't need to be given money per se, only to have nothing to show for it after we spend it all. We give it right back to them. No, that's stupid. Give us access to the very wealth, the Commonwealth Edison of all that different stuff, all the different sectors, institutionally and systemically. Put us in that room, at that table with everybody. Make it an equal playing field for every last one of us. That way, we not only paying taxes, everyone's happy, everyone's living good, no one's suffering, no one's being oppressed. Now, racism is something that's going to still be ingrained in some people, regardless of what position of power you hold, right? So your personal beliefs are what they are. And for me, I always tell people I don't accept apologies from racist people because that's who you are. You can't apologize for how you feel, right? That's how you felt. You meant that. Don't apologize for it now because it's been out and been broadcast, and now in the court of public opinion, you've been scrutinized for it. No. Hold on to that shit. Keep that. Keep that same energy that you've been having all this time. That's who you are. That's who ultimately who you're going to stay. You're not going to change. A leopard don't change spots overnight. So why should I even expect you to change? Now, my mother used to always tell me this too. She says, in life, I can't change your mind, but I can give you more to think about. And then that's that's the only power we have, is to give each other education and knowledge to think about, to take into account before we make certain decisions in life, right? So using that power and that platform in such a way politically is going to help get us to a place where we need to be. So again, I really appreciate, you being here with me, sharing your thoughts about this election and just how important it is for us as Black people to be out here voting and being just vigilant and just staying steadfast at our goal, because a lot is at stake. And I know we said that a number of times before in previous elections, but even more is at stake now than it's ever been. So again, I'll hold off my segment for I'm finna cuss because I know you got to go. So again, we'll circle back again, and hopefully we'll find some time to have a conversation after this election is over, so we can kind of get some thoughts and views on what took place and what to do next. Now that we will be at that place where we have, okay, now this is what it is. What's next? And that's what the topic of discussion.
In the Black community, this is a wonderful platform, and I'm very proud of you and what you're doing.
I really appreciate that. And again, I'm always saying that I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to talk to those who are in the trenches and on the front lines, making a difference in our Black communities, and where we can collectively come together to each do our parts, because we all have a part to play. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time out to share your insight and your thoughts on this presidential election, and hopefully you're staying safe while you're out there campaigning and out there in the trenches. I really appreciate it, and I'll be checking on you to make sure everything is all right. And yeah, we'll definitely be circling back to have another discussion about this. Hopefully I'm gonna have a larger panel to discuss this too, in terms of giving us their take on just what's been occurring in other cities and states too.
Okay, cool beans. That'll be fun. Thank you so much for having me, Marlon. I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Bye.